But they have those movies that are compilation films where it'll be like a bunch of people sitting around and they'll be like, here's a sexy story I heard. And then it'll just cut to a scene from an old Cinemax show. And then they'll come back and be like, wow, that was a hot story. It's like, this was just a scene of people having sex. How did they tell that story? There's no context.
Yeah, I never know how to take that because I actually really start thinking about the framing device there. I'm like, so were they there watching this happen?
No, they just heard about it. What's interesting about it is they are...
It's an oral history, Dan.
Those are...
And vaginal.
Well, you know... It was you couldn't see that, listeners, but Stuart winked at me after he said that. That's what did it. Actually, you know what? I'd rather be in a aughts Cinemax series where it's one of those ones where it's a repackaged movie with scenes from 90s Cinemax shows.
Right.
So it's a lot of people just sitting around going, I knew this couple once, and they told me the craziest story, and then it just cuts to a sex scene.
I wanted to do...
And then when it cuts back, the other people go, wow, that story was hot.
Like you say that, I have for a long time wanted to do a stand-up bit about that very same thing. Like, what is going on there? Like,
what story are they telling?
were they there watching that?
No, they always say they told me about, or they usually say.
And like, what are they describing when they're like?
Yeah, that's what I wonder.
The two of them had sex.
Okay, first
he was on hot story.
He was on top, but then he was behind her, and then she was on top. And
For a brief time, they were doing reverse cowgirl, but all throughout it, one of them had their hands in front of their genitals, so you couldn't actually see anything.
It feels like it was curiously edited down for some reason.
And where the penis seems like it should be going into the vagina, it seemed like it was actually going into more of like, I don't know, the belly button region?
And there was an irritating rock and roll song that I've never heard anywhere else, and never will hear anywhere again.
That is a hot story. Why are we talking about sex stories again?
I don't remember. Well, time to have sex, I guess. Credits. Must be some kind of midnight sex talk radio show. Anyway, I'll begin. So here's my craziest story.
I was watching my two best friends have sex for some reason, and they had sex in a very particular way.
Here. I think we might have talked about the movies where they've taken like a Cinemax TV show and they've cut up the scenes and made it a movie, and they're like, so a friend of mine and
Told
her
me the
boyfriend
craziest
told me the
story.
craziest story, and then it just dissolves to a sex scene. It's like,
okay, two people having sex. That wasn't anything.
it's not crazy, but also
no
like, how are you
scenario.
describing this? I don't. So
Were
anyway,
you there?
Get out of
no, but
my
also
mind.
like it's not a story. Like there's nothing to tell.
Then there was some reverse cowgirl.
Yeah, exactly. Then he was behind her for a little bit, but then she was on the bottom again.
And then she was in a space where it kind of looked like she was giving him oral, but it wouldn't be quite
It didn't
lining
line
up.
up quite right. It looked more like she was like bobbing her head against his thigh.
It's kind of like the oral sex in Orange is the New Black. Am I right, guys?
I haven't watched that.
Sure.
Come on, Netflix
Yeah.
originals.